Welcome friends, it's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, I feature cards I made using the April 2022 monthly card kit from Hero Arts. Stay tuned at the end and I will unbox the kit. For my first card, I placed white cardstock in my MISTI and am placing the large background stamp from the kit in my MISTI and lining it up with the bottom right corner. I'm using my anti-static powder bag to prep my white panel for heat embossing. And then I bring in my VersaFine Onyx black ink and apply that to the background stamp. I stamp my image, use my dry eraser. First time I didn't get the impression that I wanted, so I applied more ink and then we'll stamp this a second time. Once I get the consistent impression, then I will move on to apply some clear embossing powder to my image. I use my heat tool to emboss my panel. Here I brought in my much loved Make Art Station and have placed my stencil, my first stencil on the panel. And the stencils are labeled at the bottom left with 1 at the end, 1, 2, and 3 at the end of the labeling so that you know which is which. So stencil number 1, I've applied a few pieces of purple-sided tape to hold it down. I could have used my magnets, but there are some pieces in the corner that I want to make certain I color. So I'm using the inks from the kit. I'm bringing in the cotton candy ink and just applying that liberally through my stencil, and this brush makes it so easy to do. I love the fact that Hero Arts included a blending brush in the kit this month, and just making sure I get good coverage here. I have labeled my stencils at the top with a Sharpie, but again, they are labeled at the bottom, but I wanted to make sure that I saw my numbers here, and I'm lining up stencil number 2, and this is pretty easy to do. I'm loving that a lot of the companies are coming out with these layered stencils. It makes it so easy to get beautiful colored panels without doing a lot of work. Here I'm bringing in my rose madder, the darker color, to accent as I use stencil number 2. I can't believe how quick and easy this is. Just love it. Now I'm adding stencil number 3 and using a little purple tape there, but mostly my magnets, bringing in the green apple ink, and have switched blending brushes and love how this greenery is coming together. I'm applying this liberally so that I get a slightly darker color for my greenery. And then about here is when I discover my top left, I didn't color some of my pink foliage or pink florals, just the small portion. So I'm going to go back and put my stencil back on and color that. Off camera, I stamped my background stamp onto several more panels, and we'll color those off camera, but we'll show you a few more of the cards I made with different colors. Here I'm bringing in my alcohol markers and I'm going to color my bees with the number 45 Canary Yellow. I start out with a darker color, but then I bring in the Canary Yellow. I think I like that a little better. And then for the wings, I'm going to bring in number 143 in Mint Blue and use my blender marker to blend out the wings so that I have a hint of blue. So once I'm done coloring my bees, I will cut this panel down to 6 by 6, removing that white space up top. I stamped my sub-sentiment on white cardstock, heat embossed using VersaFine Onyx black ink and clear embossing powder, and now I'm just trimming that out with my trimmer. I am using the guide on my paper trimmer to get a really close cut. And then there are times when I need to move my sentiment to the very bottom because the guide at the bottom sometimes allow you to get a closer cut, especially when you're trimming off the right side of your sentiment. The kit came with a large, amazing die and the shadow for it. I have die cut that shadow out of black cardstock and also out of vellum, and have cut the amazing word once from kiwi cardstock, and have already affixed that with glue, and now I'm affixing the entire thing to my vellum, offsetting so that the vellum shows through up top. And I have trimmed my panel, my main panel, down to 4.5 by 5 3/4, and used a waffle flower scalloped die to cut the bottom edge, and wanted that to be a little longer, so I did add a scalloped black edge to the bottom. Hard to see here on the map, but you will see that a little bit later for sure. And so now I'm bringing in my amazing die and positioning it where I want it using the grid on my black craft mat. And then once I get that there, I will put my acrylic block on top to affix it. And then I'm adding liquid adhesive to the back of my sub-sentiments and will place that on my main panel. I've cut a 5 by 7 panel for matting, and I've used some waffle flower 5 by 7 dies to do that. And I have placed foam tape, double-sided foam tape on the back of my main panel, and am now affixing that to my kiwi mat and removing the rest of that release paper. Then I decided I wanted want my panel to have less matting. So I placed that into my trimmer using the trimmer guides, and am just trimming that down so that I have about 1/4 of an inch border when I place this on my card base. I partially remove the release paper from the tape, and then I can position my panel onto my card base, and then get it lined up where I want it before committing and removing the rest of that release paper. I'm adding one of the green hearts from the embellishment packet in the kit, and that finishes off this card. Love the bright colors and how this turned out. Card number 2 uses the large background stamp, and I've used Distress Oxide Picked Raspberry as my base for my large flowers, and then the accent is using Seedless Preserves. And I have die cut a large panel from the background stamp, and I will set the other piece aside to use for another card. This Happy Mother's Day fancy die is an add-on this month, and I have die cut it out of 110-pound black cardstock. I'm using my tweezers to um, remove all of the insides from the die cut. Then I'm going to use my scissors to just trim out the edges. I want to cut out that Happy Mother's Day portion of this intact, so I'm just going to snip the ends. I'll use my Ranger Multi-Matte Medium glue with the precision tip to affix glue to the back, and then I'm going to place this on my white panel and offset the lettering so that a little bit of the white peeks through. I do the exact same with the word day. Here I'm thinking I want to mute my background coloring a little, so I'm going to bring in some of my inexpensive vellum and cut that down to fit my floral background panel and affix it to the top with some double-sided tape. I like the softer look of that better, and am just removing all of my double-sided tape, and then we'll place some more double-sided tape on top of this piece. Here I'm adding liquid adhesive to the inside back of my large die cut Happy Mother's Day piece, and then we'll add some craft tacky glue around the oval perimeter. I removed the release paper from my double-sided tape on my floral panel and will place my white panel on top of that floral and secure that with an acrylic top on block and let it set. I placed double-sided foam tape on the back of my focal panel and will now affix that to my 5x7 card base. I'm bringing in some of the pink embellishments from the kit, placing a heart in the top right, and then we'll place 4 of the pink enamel drops on the rest of this card front. I love the clean and simple look of this card. So for card number 3, I've removed the mouse pad from my MISTI, placed a piece of copy paper down in the MISTI, and a panel, a white panel. And I'm lining that up, and then we'll place my large rubber background stamp, Love Is by Hero Arts, place that in my MISTI, and making sure that I'm covering my entire panel. I am inking up my stamp with black soot Distress Oxide ink. I want a lighter black tone versus the darker tone I would get with my VersaFine Onyx black ink. So I'm just inking up the middle and trying to make sure that I will cover my entire stamp, and then I bring in my dry eraser to help with getting a good impression. And didn't get the best impression in areas. So I'm just going to go over this again and stamp again. That's much better, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for a second panel. Next, I'm going to move my stamp down because both these panels are for slimline cards, and so I'm going to line it up at the bottom, and then I'm going to I can see where this will stamp in relation to my panels, my initial panels where I stamped them, and I just want the spacing to be pretty even. So once I get that placed, I'm going to then place just a piece of copy paper over the stamp portion of my panel, bring in some post-it note tape to hold that down, and I'm placing my tape directly over my stamped line. So I move my paper up and the tape will be directly over. So nothing will get stamped above my post-it note tape. I'm placing my panel back in my MISTI, lining it up close to where I had it before. But it doesn't have to be perfect. So I've inked up my panel again towards the bottom with the black soot, using my eraser to stamp, and didn't get the best impression that time, so I'm going to stamp once more. Second time's a charm. So now let's remove that paper. And the post-it note tape looks really good. I'm going to do the same to my second panel. I've cut my background panel so that I have a 2.5 inch wide strip, and then I'm taking the larger piece and lining up the dies from the kit so that I can cut out some of the florals and bees to use on this card. I'm taking my 2.5 inch wide piece as well as my leftover piece from card number 2, and have decided that I want to use some vellum. So I am going to cut my vellum to the same width as both of these pieces. I am using some lighter weight vellum. I reserved my 40-pound vellum for heat embossing. So I'm going to cut one strip of vellum to 2.5 inches wide, and the other two 1 3/4 inches wide for each of my pieces, my strips. I'm going to trim each of my Love Is background panels to 3.5 by 8 1/4 inches. So here I'm lining my panel up on my grid mat, and my vellum, I am centering it on my card panel, and then I will bring in my 2.5 inch wide strip or focal panel and decide how far down I want it on my card. And then we'll add some liquid adhesive to the back and place that on. I place some craft tacky glue on the back of that vellum just behind the panel so that it won't show through to the front. And then am going to place that vellum, center it on my panel, and then affix where I want it. I flip that over and just press or fold my vellum down on either side, use my bone folder to burnish that, get a good crease, and then just trim that vellum down. And then we'll add some double-sided tape to the back of the vellum and release it and fold or press that into my card panel and make sure it is taut or tight. Off camera, I die cut the Amazing Word die 6 times out of 110-pound black cardstock, affixed 3 together twice to form 2 words. Amazing. I'm going to use one on this card and one on the next card. So I placed my word amazing on my card approximately where I will position it. I've also placed my die cut rose where approximately where I want to position it, and I've glued URN on that rose. And the "and" came from Have "and," which is 1 centimeter in the kit, but I cut the "and" off. And now I've placed another rose up top with some liquid adhesive, and am just adding some double-sided foam tape to the back of my main rose that has my sub-sentiment on it. So I want to commit all of my flat pieces first before I used my popped up sentiment, because I want to be able to put my acrylic block on top to let things set. So I've taken another rose and am affixing it just to the top area and using my block to hold that in place. And then I will place my rose, my main rose, just on my panel, and get my T-ruler in here so I can figure out where I want to place my amazing word. And then once I get that figured out, I will use some liquid adhesive to commit that to my panel. Next, I have one last flat rose that I want to add to the panel. So we'll do that with liquid adhesive also. But first, I'm figuring out placement for that rose and the rest of my sentiment. I've added some liquid glue to the left of the sentiment, and then I'm just affixing that and attaching it to that last rose. Then I will place some liquid glue on the back of that rose as well as the sentiment strip. Then I place that entire piece on my panel, use my acrylic block to affix and hold that in place. Then I added one of my bumblebees. So cute. Now I'm ready to add my final rose. So once that's done, I add some double-sided tape to the back of my panel and affix it to my card base. Lovely. And to finish off this card, I am bringing in some pops of color by scrapbook.com. This is lemon chiffon in the pearl color, which is really beautiful. I thought that would accent very nicely with the yellow in the bumblebees. And this pops of color is very fluid. So squeeze gently so you don't get more out than you want. And if you need to, just test it on a scrap piece of paper first. But here I have placed 5 dots across my panel. Ooh, I love the way this card turned out. Lovely. Card number 4, I am using the last of my Love Is backgrounds and my panel with seedless preserves and picked raspberry, and it is 1 3/4 inches wide. I am going to not center this one, but place it more to the left than to the right. And go ahead and use some liquid adhesive and commit the panel to vellum just like I did in card number 3. I affixed this panel to my card base the same way I did in card number 3. Once I've added my sentiment, I commit this card to the card base, or the panel to the card base, and then add some of the embellishments from the kit. And I'm using the green ones. Let's take a closer look at the cards I've made in today's video. Stay tuned for the unboxing of the kit if you'd like to see that. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. I am unboxing the My Monthly Hero Arts kit for April. And this kit is really something that I think you'll use over and over again. At least I plan to. And there is a large 6x6 stamp, rubber stamp, background stamp for the kit, which is very timely because I need to make some Mother's Day cards and or some more Mother's Day cards. In the kit, we also get 3 ink cubes, rose madder, green apple, and cotton candy. Very pretty. And we get a 3x4 clear stamp set. I'll move some of this stuff over. With lots of sentiments for Mother's Day, birthdays, just because, friendship, thank you, a little bit of everything here. Again, very timely for Mother's Day. And everything comes in this pouch so that you can keep your project all together. Get a blending brush. Oh, that's so soft. And we get some dies. We get amazing, the word amazing, with a shadow, with the shadow for it. And then a couple of the flowers that are on the stamp set, as well as the bee. So the bee with the open wings, this die will cut. The flower, this die, yes, this die will cut this flower, and then this die will cut this flower, so that you can pop those up on layers. You can color this. You can use gold, silver, platinum, copper embossing powder. You can do any number of beautiful designs with that. And then we get some assorted enamel stickers that are heart-shaped and oval-shaped and tear or raindrop-shaped. Oh, those are pretty. Those are in pink, green, and clear. And then, ta-da, we get some stencils, layering stencils, to layer on top of the background stamp or to use separately. Oh gosh, I've torn this paper. Huh. Okay, get those out. So these are 6x6 stencils. Like I said, you can use those with or without the stamps. Now, okay, let's see. Oh, I think I have it. Oh, okay, let's just see here. Okay, so the Hero Arts is down here, and let's see. Okay, so that's the way they go. Let me see here. Let me check this out. Okay, so I'm looking for the Hero Arts. Okay, and the number. So it's got the number down here. The end says 2. Okay, so this is number 1. You can't see that, but you can see it in person. Number 1, number 2 with more detail, and then 3 are the leaves. And they have these little squares, so you can line these up the way they go if you use the squares, and you can put some black. You can use the ink that you're using to color them and color that, or you can put black there so that it makes it easier to line up. So excited. Could not wait to get this kit. I also got a couple of add-ons because, again, I need to make some Mother's Day cards. And then Father's Day is coming up. So I got the Father's Day die and the Happy Mother's Day die. Which I usually don't buy add-ons because my budget is so tight. Well, I went over my budget this month. But I do normally make quite a few cards at both Mother's Day and Father's Day. So that says Happy Mother's Day. And I thought this might make it easier to mass produce those cards. Father's Day, we've got a little bit more time, but again, I was looking for ease of making these cards, or the amount of cards that I make. And oh, this one has the shadow with it. Lovely. All right, there you have it, the kit for this month. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, good day, friends.